Hi there. Welcome back to Real English. Today we are going to be diving deep into pronunciation, specifically what really matters to be understood. Are you ready? So am I. So let's get started. For decades, pronunciation was taught as if there was only one right way to speak English, one correct accent, one standard model to imitate, usually British or American. And maybe you felt that pressure too. That little voice saying, I need to sound native to sound good. But here's the truth that's not how English works anymore. Most English conversations today don't happen between native speakers. They happen between people like you and me professionals, travelers, people from all over the world using English as our bridge language. That's what we call English as a lingua franca, or ELF. And when you see English this way, everything changes. Because now the goal isn't to sound native, it's to be understood, to connect, to express yourself clearly and confidently. This isn't about imitation, it's about intelligibility. And that shift was revolutionary. So, to understand this, let's go back to a classic model the three circles of English. In the past, we used to conceive English speakers as in three circles. There was the inner circle, where English is the native language, like people from the UK, the US, Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland. Then there was the outer circle, where English is a second language, usually for administrative purposes. Countries like India, Singapore, South Africa, Philippines, and then there was the expanding circle, where English is learned as a foreign language, like Argentina, Japan, or Brazil. Now, English as a lingua franca cuts across all of these circles. It represents what's really happening in the world. People from all of these backgrounds communicating with each other. For example, in countries like the UK, US, or Australia, there are lots of immigrants from all over the world. Or in many organizations, employees communicate with their colleagues from other countries all the time, natives and non natives. So the goal is not to copy one specific accent, it's to speak clearly enough for everyone to understand you, no matter where they are from. And we measure that through three main ideas. First of all, intelligibility. So, can the listener recognize the words you say? Number two, comprehensibility. Can they understand your meaning in context? And number three, accentedness. How different your pronunciation sounds from a native or standardized form. And here's the key you can have an accent, even a strong one, and still be perfectly intelligible. Because communication isn't a solo act, it's co created. The listener is part of the process. They adapt, interpret, and meet you halfway. This is why being a good listener matters. That's the beauty of real communication. There are features of pronunciation that still really matter for global understanding. One of the most influential researchers in this field is Jennifer Jenkins. She introduced what we call the lingua franca core. That is, those features that we need to master if we want people from all over the world to understand us. And let me simplify it for you. First, we have the consonants. Most consonants matter, so we need to produce them right, except for theta and delta, like in thin and this. We can still replace them with sounds like t, d, f, s. I don't strongly agree with this, but if you didn't produce these sounds clearly, people will still understand you. Aspiration and vowel length. You need to aspire p, t, and k, just like I'm doing right now at the start of stressed syllables, such as in Potter or table instead of table. That little puff of air, makes a difference. So it's pen, not ben. The puff of air makes it sound English. And also, vowel length matters. Think of fill versus feel. As Spanish speakers, we tend to lengthen the vowels without realizing we do so because doing that doesn't change the meaning of words in Spanish. Just like if we were saying cierto, tal cual. Hmm. But in English, when we change the lengthening of a vowel, it really does change the sound. And it really does change the word too. So make sure you pay attention to the length of the vowels. Next, we have consonant clusters. And this is important because we don't have to delete sounds at the beginning of words, like saying treat instead of street. But we can add a small vowel like a schwa and say street and still sound intelligible. Do I recommend it? Not really, but I'm saying what really matters and what doesn't matter so much. Okay, now for the vowel quality. The exact sound of your vowels doesn't need to be perfect or super long. For example, ah or No, no. What matters is keeping clear contrast. Short versus long, especially the long as in bird, so that you don't say beard, for example. Now, this one is very, very important. It is the nuclear stress. The word you stress in a sentence carries your main message. If you stress the wrong word, your meaning can change completely. So, pronunciation in the English as a lingua franca era focuses on clarity, not imitation. You don't need to erase your accent, you need to own it and make it work for you. Now, of course, there is resistance. Many speakers, learners, and even teachers like me still associate native like accents with prestige or success. But that's all thinking, and I love putting these new ideas into practice with you together because English today belongs to everyone who uses it. So when you speak English with your unique accent, you're not less than. You're part of the reality of global communication. You're showing that English can sound Argentinian, Indian, Italian, or Mexican and still be powerful, beautiful, and effective. Everyone can speak English. At the end of the day, that's what real English stands for. Not perfection, not imitation, but authentic, confident communication that builds bridges. So remember this: intelligibility doesn't come from sounding native, it comes from being understood. And being understood comes from owning your voice. So, thank you for joining me today. Keep practicing, reflecting, and communicating in English. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.